Please take Chumashim. Everybody take Chumashim. Okay, we're on page 296. So, maybe I could trouble you close that door. This one? Yeah. So just two quick announcements. First of all, tomorrow there's no shiur, so there's a midwinter break for till Sunday. Okay. The other thing is, I got an email yesterday, which I would call somewhere between a harsh, scathing email, because somebody took issue with a joke I made last week. I remember we were talking about war being different. Back in the old days, war was, much more personal. Nowadays, you're in the back room with computers, blowing things up. So somebody sent me an email, and it was sent an email to the yeshiva that maybe Kaplan lives in a bubble and doesn't know that there's a war going on in Gaza and soldiers are fighting at the thing. So first of all, I apologize if anybody was hurt, if any of you were offended. I don't think that anybody, I didn't seem to think that anybody took that as a literal pronouncement on every single war fought everywhere. But somebody took issue with it, thought I lived in a bubble, and I'm not aware that there's a war going on in Gaza. So I certainly apologize, but I think that sometimes things can be kept in proper perspective. It was just said in a certain context under certain circumstances. It wasn't meant to be I wasn't upset. I was more puzzled that somebody would take it that way. I understand that they themselves are parents of guys who are fighting in Gaza, so I understand that they're very sensitive about it. But I have mentioned many times in the shiurim that Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, the Rosh Yeshiva Mir, has said numerous times that we have to have a debt of hakaras hatov. We appreciate, and we have a great debt of gratitude to the soldiers who are fighting. So, sometimes they get the extreme views because they're whatever. We appreciate the soldiers who are fighting. The soldiers also have a debt of gratitude to those who are learning Torah, because the Torah that's being learned protects them a lot more than the armor in the tanks and in all the the Torah is what's protecting Klal Yisrael. The soldiers are they are agents who are on the front lines and they're fighting. The people boys who are in yeshiva who are learning Torah are the agents on the front lines who are learning Torah, and that's the major protection for Klal Yisrael. So, if anybody's offended, I certainly apologize, but it certainly was not intended to indicate that I live in a bubble.
It wasn't a White Sox fan.
No. I don't know, maybe. No. It was somebody who's obviously, very sensitive about it, because they do have kids fighting. Okay, I understand that. But I also have a view in life that whenever there is a disproportionate reaction to anything in life, something somebody says or something somebody does. So, for example, a father who gets upset who gets really, really upset because somebody squeezed the toothpaste the wrong way, that means something else is bothering you. I always suspect that there's something else underlying it. That's a rule. So it could be there's something else underlying it. It could be that they're very, very connected, which itself is something that's underlying it, because they personally are connected. Whatever the case, I just want to make that clear. In any event, we are on page 296, and we stopped yesterday with Tzipora goes and tells, Basya Bas Paro, Miriam says, should I call a Jewish maid, nursemaid, wet nurse? I'll get there. A Jewish wet nurse, to nurse the baby. She calls the mother, and she pays the mother to do it. So we were talking about that yesterday. Then, in the last line, it says, Vayigdal hayeled, he grows up. Vativio levas paro, Yocheved brings him to Bas Paro. Vayihila levein, bottom line. Vatikra shmo Moshe, she names him Moshe. Vatomer, she says, Kimin hamayim mishisihu, because I drew him out of the water. She calls him Moshe because she drew him out of the water. Now, according to the commentators, Basi Bas Paro did not know Lashon HaKodesh. So how does she know to call him Moshe Minamayim mishisihu? So according to, I think, Rav Hirsch or other commentaries, she asked Yocheved, how do you say this? How do you say this, I want to express that I drew him out of the water. So how do you say Lashon HaKodesh? She said, Moshe, Kimino Mai Mishisihu. But then that begs the question that he should be called Mishisihu. Why is he called Moshe as opposed to Mishisihu? Mishisihu means I drew him out. Why not call him I drew him out? Why do you call, or short, just call him Drew? Yeah. Why is he called Moshe? So if you think about it, what it means in Hebrew, you're fluent in Hebrew. You think about the difference between Mishisiu is past tense. Moshe means the drawer. The drawer. Mishisiu means I drew him. Moshe means the drawer, because we're going to see that is going to be his task in life. Is he's going to be the one drawing things out of other things. He's going to be drawing people out of trouble, and he's going to be drawing the Torah down from Shemayim. He's going to be, that's his task. In other words, the way taking him out of the water is really somehow infuses him with this tendency that his whole life is going to be spent him himself drawing things. He's going to be drawing the Jewish people out of Egypt. He's going to be drawing the Torah down from Shemayim. He's going to be drawing the daughters of Yisro. We're going to see it's like he draws them out of trouble. The whole thing is going to be a description of what his essence is. That's his name. Therefore, his name is Moshe as opposed to Mishisiu, which is just the past tense. He was drawn out of water. Those are the Mefarshim explain. Okay. So Moshe, Vayihi b'yamim hahem, Vayigdal Moshe, Vayetzel elechav. Moshe grows up again. And here you notice that earlier it said, Vayigdal hayeled, 2 lines from the bottom. So take a look at the top Rashi. Vayigdal Moshe, v'halok far kasa Vayigdal hayeled. Top 298, top Rashi. It already says that he grew up. Amar Rav Yehuda Rabbi Eloi, Harishon lekoma. The first one means he grew in size, and he grew up, he grew. Hasheni ligdula. The second one means for promotion, for position. Sheminahu paro al beso. Paro appointed him over his house. So Moshe grows up in the palace, and he goes out. Vayetze el echav vayar b'sivlosam. He goes out, and he sees the suffering of his brothers. Now we're going to see something fascinating. Vayar ish mitzri make ish ivri me'achav. He sees an Egyptian man who's hitting a Jew, and Rashi brings down that there was a Jewish woman named Shlomis Bas Divri, and she was a very beautiful woman. And this Egyptian who used to go into the house to wake up the men before the crack of dawn to bring them out to work. So the Egyptian saw her, and he took a liking to her. So he brought the husband out to work. Then he doubled back to the house, and apparently in the dark, she thought it was her husband, and it wasn't. It was the Egyptian, and he violated her. The next day, then the husband came home, and he saw the Egyptian coming out of his house. And he said to his wife, "Did he touch you?" She goes, "Yeah, well, they certainly did. More than touched me." And it was, and he was upset. The next day, the Egyptian sensed that the husband knew what had gone on, so he was hitting him. And apparently, the Egyptian was nervous, because there are commentators that say that even in Egypt, that was not acceptable. You can't go around raping people. So that even Jewish women. So the Egyptian himself was nervous. And now he's hitting the husband, because there's nothing like hitting the guy kicking him when he's down. And Moshe Rabbeinu sees that he's hitting him. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? Vayifen kovacho, he looks in both directions. Vayarki einish, he sees there's nobody's around. Vayaches ha-mitzri, he strikes the Egyptian, he hides him in the sand. He buries him in the sand. So the first thing that you have to understand here is Vayifen kovacho, this is a sign of leadership. Leadership means you take responsibility. Moshe goes out there, he sees the Jews getting beaten up by the Egyptian. He looks around, there are different opinions what that means. One is, the plain meaning is, nobody's looking. This is what I was told by a narc. There was a cop who was a narc, and he worked in Bed-Stuy, which was one of the worst neighborhoods in New York. So when they found people who needed treatment, needed some improvement in their behavior, so he told me, the cops. He was a retired cop already. I said to him, how did you do? He said, they would apply physical therapy, and to get certain things straightened out. And so I said to him, "Aren't you worried about if they're witnesses? Somebody see you?" He goes, he with a thick Brooklyn accent. "No, there weren't no witnesses. There weren't no witnesses." So Moshe Rabbeinu, first thing you got to look around, make sure nobody sees. But there are other opinions. Anybody what you're looking around for? Is there anybody around here who can take action? Nobody's doing it, so I got to do it. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, we're b'makom she'ein ish. If nobody's around to do it, so you got to do it. There's nobody around to do it. So Moshe Rabbeinu looks around. There's nobody's going to take action here. Then it's up to me. I got to take action, which is a sign of leadership. Leadership means, remember, Moshe is going to be a leader. Leadership means you take on responsibility. Even more than that, leadership, and this is a very, very important point that the Meforshim say. What is Moshe? What's the first thing he does? You know, before you do something dramatic, there's got to be a little bit of forethought. What are the ramifications here? Is this the right thing to do? You can't just be rash. Sometimes in life you got to be quick. You got to rush into a house. If there's a burning fire, you got to go run into the house and save somebody. But you can't be rash about it. Vayifen kol v'cho represents the idea that what he's going to do something dramatic. But what he does dramatically, first there's some forethought over here. Don't just rush, a headlong rush into drama. Think for a second. Is this the right thing to do? That's what it represents, which is an important rule in life. What's that? Be rational about it. Don't just don't just react and jump. You think for a second. Sometimes you got to think in a split second. Sometimes there's not a whole lot of time to think. But symbolically, don't just react. That's a sign of a leader. He looks around, sees that this guy is, what do you call it? He's hassling the Jew, he's hitting the Jew. So Moshe Rabbeinu kills him, and he buries him in the sand. According to the Medrash, he hit him with some sort of shovel. According to Rashi, brings down, what did he kill? How did he kill him? He pronounced Hashem's name. Pronounced Hashem's name, the Shemos before. He put him to death with Hashem's name. Now, there's a very, very peculiar, very, very difficult to understand concept. Take a look at Rashi. Vayar ki ein ish. It's the right column of Rashi, 6 lines off the bottom. Vayar ki ein ish. Moshe Rabbeinu sees there's no man around. Says Rashi, quoting the Medrash, She'ein ish asi lotzes mimenu sheyisgayer. There is no man who's going to come from him, who's destined to come from him, who's going to convert. Moshe Rabbeinu sees prophetically nobody in the future is going to come. Nothing good is going to come from this guy. So Moshe Rabbeinu kills him. Okay. That begs a question, gentlemen. That begs a big question here. What's the question? He's hitting the Jew. He's hitting the Jew. Was it a life-threatening situation for the Jew? If it's life-threatening, then what's the halacha? You got to kill him. And we never find a situation where Bezdin, even whether somebody has to kill somebody to save somebody else. You never make a calculation what's going to be in the future with this guy. He deserves to die. You kill him right now. If you have an innocent victim who's being pursued, looks like they're going to kill an innocent victim. What's the halacha? You have to protect him. And you don't make a calculation, well, maybe down the line something good's going to happen and he'll have a descendant who will convert and donate money to Ohr Somayach for the drive. No, you don't think about those things. What do? You step in and you kill him. When Bezdin executed people on those rare occasions, you didn't stop and think what's going to happen. As a matter of fact, if a woman was pregnant, you executed her when she was pregnant. I don't know if it ever happened. But it's the raw letter of the halacha and the Bezdin, the Sanhedrin, and some of them had Ruach HaKodesh. It wasn't like, okay, this guy deserved the death penalty. 1 second. I'm feeling it. Right? No. There's going to be something good's going to happen over here. So I understand. Was it a life-threatening situation? If it was a life-threatening situation, why is Moshe Rabbeinu making calculations? What's the alternative? It wasn't life-threatening. So why are you killing him? Because it's not life-threatening, why are you killing him? Good question, isn't it? It is a good question. That's a good question. Anybody got an answer? Anybody brave?
He probably didn't mean to kill him.
He meant to kill him. He meant to kill him dead. When you're pronouncing God's name on people, it's not like, give him an ingrown toenail. You're pronouncing God's name. That Medrash talks about Moshe Rabbeinu was given the name. He knew the name, whatever it is, the Ruach HaKodesh, however it is. But at the end of the day, if you're pronouncing, it wasn't like he pronounced, wrong God's name, they're just a knee injury. He knew God, he's using what's called a Shema Mefurish.
Maybe it's a different halacha when a non-Jew does it to a Jew?
Oh, good. Now we're getting closer. So the Rambam paskins, the halacha, if a non-Jew is hitting a Jew, he's liable for what's called misa bidei shemayim. He's liable for death at the hands of heaven. That means it's not actionable. You try to stop him from hitting him. But if it's not a life-threatening situation, you don't have to kill him. But he's chayav misa bidei shemayim. Oh. So Moshe Rabbeinu now shifts into misa bidei shemayim mode. That's why he uses the heavenly name, why he uses God's name. Why doesn't Moshe just take a club and smash him? Okay, there's an opinion in the Medrash that he did, but Rashi says he used if Moshe Rabbeinu should just take a club and hit him and kill him. Oh, he doesn't deserve to die by a human hand. Where he deserves to die by a heavenly hand. So Moshe Rabbeinu invokes the heavenly name. But when God gets involved, imagine Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't involved. Let's say somebody did something, is chayiv misa bidei shemayim. Somebody has to die at the hands of heaven. How does God take care of it? God makes all sorts of calculations under those circumstances. So Moshe Rabbeinu is shifting into misa bidei shemayim mode now. Oh, in misa bidei shemayim mode, you do make calculations. Then you got to check in Ruach HaKodesh if somebody's going to be coming out of him. And if something good is going to happen over here, then you're not allowed to kill him, even using Hashem's name. So before Moshe Rabbeinu does, once you're in this mode of misa bidei shemayim, it's a brilliant answer. It's a brilliant answer. And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu is using the heavenly name in order to kill him.
So you're saying Moshe knew these halachas, or he just...
We have a tradition that they knew all the halachas, that Avram Avinu kept the entire Torah, Yitzchak kept the entire Torah.
He was Jewish at the time?
He was home for a long time before she brought him back. So he was taught the halachas. They knew a lot of these ideas that the commentaries present are with the brothers selling Yosef. There's a machlokas, exactly what their status is. A lot of these ideas that you're going to find in the commentaries in Chumash, they're based on the premise that they knew the Torah and they knew the halachas even before the Torah was given. Then they go, they didn't know the Torah, so none of it applies. But the basic premise is that they did. So according to the Rambam, if that's the halacha, and Moshe Rabbeinu knew the Rambam, and Moshe Rabbeinu, he knows that halacha, so he understands I can't kill him with my hands because it's not life-threatening. Because if it was life-threatening, he'd have to kill him without any calculations. Brilliant. It's a brilliant answer. Brilliant answer. Okay. The next day he goes out and he sees two Jews are fighting. According to some, they staged the fight. To draw Moshe Rabbeinu in. This is Dasan and Aviram, who are going to be the perennial thorns of Moshe Rabbeinu's side. It's Dasan and Aviram. Page 298. And so according to some, they staged the fight. According to others, Vayomer l'Rosha lama sakerecha. He said, why are you hitting your friends? And Rashi points out, just lifting your fist, you're already called a Rasha. And he says, your friend, he's also a Rasha. You're no good either. It's like this cop, he sees two guys hanging out in front of a supermarket, two ne'er-do-wells hanging out in front of a supermarket. Cop walks up to the first guy, says, what are you doing here? What are you doing? What are you hanging around here for? He says, well, I ain't doing nothing, man. I'm doing nothing. No. Turns to the other guy, what are you doing? I'm just helping him. And so what do you call it? He goes out, he says, you're no good and you're no good. You're both no good. I used to say that to my kids. Kids come over complaining. So he hit me. Well, because she called me a name. I said, you're wrong for hitting her. And you're wrong for opening your big mouth. You're both wrong. You have that in life. You got to have them both wrong. The case in court, the guy comes to the judge. The guy, there's a court case. So the judge looks and goes, the first lawyer speaks and says, you're right. The other guy, the lawyer, says, 1 second. I said, you're right also. Somebody says, they can't both be right. He says, you're right too. So you're both wrong. You're no good and you're worse. That happens in life. You can both be wrong. Husband and wife are arguing each other, going at it. You're both wrong. Obviously, he's more wrong than she is because he's the one who has to apologize. But at the end of the day, you can both be wrong. So, Vayomer mi samcha leish sar v'shofet. Who made you? Who appointed you to be in charge of us? Which is also a life lesson. There's always somebody like that. Who made you in charge? Somebody's trying to do something good. Somebody goes around the neighborhood asking people, maybe you could give some money. We want to build a shul for the neighborhood. Well, who put you in charge? And the guy who says that is usually a guy who he will never do it. He'll never be in charge. But whoever is in charge, you always got to have one of those in every neighborhood. There's always one of those in every shul, at least one. The guy who it doesn't matter what you're doing, but if he wasn't involved in making the decision, so I don't care who is, but he's like, that's usually somebody who's not a very happy person. You're going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian? Moshe, okay, words out. And then the Medrash says they went and they actually ratted him out. They went into Paro and they snitched on Moshe Rabbeinu. Oh, Vayishma Paro es adover azeh. Paro hears about it. Ve'evakesh laharoges Moshe. He wanted to kill Moshe. The Medrash says they brought him into court, put him on the platform, and the executioner chopped him with the sword. But the sword hit his neck, which turned to marble, bounced off of Moshe's neck, and it killed the executioner. I hate when that happens. Yeah, he just hit Moshe's neck, bounced off, and killed the executioner. That's why later on it says, "Vayatzileni micher of Paro." He saved me from the sword of Paro. We'll see. Moshe Rabbeinu says a pasuk. Hashem saved me from the sword of Paro. Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Paro. Moshe runs away from Paro. Vayeshev be'eretz Midian. He goes to the land of Midian. He runs away because he's a fugitive now. Vayeshev al haber. He goes to the well. Why does Moshe go to the well? Because he had a tradition. When you're looking for a wife, you go to the well. Right? Where did Yaakov Avinu go? Went to the well. Where did Eliezer go? Went to the well. I told you, the well just practically. First of all, woman symbolizes the well. The Barbadel says the woman symbolizes the well because the well is a source of life. So that's where you went to the well because that's where you're going to meet people. In those days where everybody eventually ended up at the well. You need a place to stay for Shabbos. You go to the well. So then somebody will invite you in. Hi, stranger, you want to come to our house for Shabbos? The well, everybody had to get water. That's why. So you go to the well. So Moshe Rabbeinu follows the tradition. He goes, well, why is he looking for a wife now? Why is he looking for a wife now? No jokes, Jeremy. Why is he looking for a wife now? Now, Jeremy's thinking, well, if you could survive a sword on the neck, now you can survive marriage. That's not the shot, Jeremy. Why is he looking for a wife now? Because he would have died, then there'd be nothing left. If he would have gotten killed, the same thing we find by Avram Avinu. He immediately after the Akedah goes and he looks for a son for a wife for Yitzchak. Because if I would have shechted him, he wouldn't have any offspring. So we better get something done about it right now. So Moshe Rabbeinu, whose life was in jeopardy, now he runs off, and the first thing he does is look for a wife. So he goes to the well. Now watch the part. You're going to have to read. You have to see this inside. Very precise terminology. Ulechoen Midian Sheva Banos. The priest of Midian had 7 daughters. Vatavona, they come along. Vatidlena, vatalamalena, es orhatin lashkos tonavim. They come to fill the troughs in order to water the sheep. And the Mefarshim say that Yisro, this Kohen Midian is Yisro, we'll find out he's Yisro, and he has already made a decision to abandon idol worship, and as a result, he's excommunicated. The idol worshippers in Midian were not happy about the fact that Yisro is abandoning the religion, so he's excommunicated. Now he has to send out his daughters. And we're going to see that the excommunication implies that the community is not happy with him. And by the way, what's interesting is when Moshe Rabbeinu, remember the Medrash that Moshe Rabbeinu was a baby sitting on Paro's lap, and at a certain point he reached up for the crown, and he threw the crown off. So there were advisors that said the kid's smart, he knows what he's doing, that's symbolic of the fact that he's going to overthrow your rulership. And Yisro was the advisor, said, no, he's just a kid. He's just playing around. They said, let's put him to the test. So they brought out a plate of coals. They brought out a plate of diamonds to see which one Moshe is going to reach for. So the Medrash says he actually started reaching for the diamonds, which wouldn't have been good. But the Malach, I think it was Gavriel, came along and pushed his hand over, and he touched the coals and put them in his mouth. That's how Moshe Rabbeinu developed a speech impediment. At that point, they were okay. Obviously, he's not intelligent. I think it's much deeper than that. I think the reason they let him off the hook at that point is because they realize that if we're worried about somebody becoming the leader, their assumption is that what's the first thing a leader has to be able to do? He has to be able to give. He has to be an orator. He has to be able to speak. He has to be able to talk. Think of the great orators in this, or Winston Churchill. These type of people who you got to be able to be an orator to be a leader. Well, if he's got a speech impediment, this is not a guy who everybody want you to follow me. That's just not going to work. So they immediately take him out of the running, and that's why they leave him in the palace. This is where you see how Hashem spins the wheels. Because here's Paro. Can you imagine Moshe sitting on his lap, his adopted grandson, and there are reports coming in. Did anybody any sign of the Jewish baby who might be the Redeemer? Right. In the meantime, he's bouncing Moshe Rabbeinu up and down on his lap right there, and he's raising the Redeemer right under his own nose. That's how God's spinning the wheels, and you don't even realize that you're doing everything you can to prevent it. You yourself are raising him, you clown. Right. That's how it's playing out. Now, that same Yisro who saved Moshe Rabbeinu's life, eventually goes back to Midian. He was an advisor of Paro. And what's his reward going to be so many years later? He's going to have Moshe as a son-in-law. He's going to have Moshe. That means it's all on account. You may see the payoff now. You may see the payoff later. Remember the muffler commercial for Midas? I think it was Midas Mufflers. Midas Mufflers. The guy gets on, and he goes... he talks about Midas mufflers, and he talks about the cheaper muffler. And then the commercial ends, the guy says, you could pay now, or you could pay later. That's what they're trying to get you why you should buy Midas mufflers, because they're oh so good. Then you'll just live a life of happiness and joy if you have Midas mufflers. So somebody once told me when he buys a car, somebody just told me a couple of days, when he buys a car, he doesn't want to learn any new words having to do with the car. Like carburetors and all sorts of, I just want my car. I don't want to hear, if I'm learning vocabulary about my car, that's not a good thing. So they go to water. Now watch this. Gentlemen, pay attention very carefully. Pasuk 17. Vayavohu haroim, the shepherds come along. Vayigorshum, they chase them away. Why are they chasing them away? Because you're the daughters of the excommunicated former priest of Midian. And the Medrash says Yisro tested every single idol worship in the world, every single pagan worship in the world, till he eventually became Jewish. He rejected them all. We'll see later on a couple of parshas. Now pay attention carefully. Vayavo aroim vayigorshum. Notice the word vayigorshum is masculine. Feminine should be vayigorshun. Masculine, chases away the girls, masculine. Vayokam Moshe gets up. Vayoshi'on, he saves them, he rescues them, feminine. Vayash estzonam, masculine. So it goes masculine, feminine, masculine. Whereas all three words should be feminine. Why? Anybody got an idea? This is a good one.
Well, Moses fled with them.
Moshe
fled with them, so it says masculine. Then
he didn't flee in front of them. We're talking about he's already there.
He didn't run away with them?
He didn't go with them. He was at the well. All of a sudden these girls come to the well, and apparently Moshe didn't do anything. And next thing you know, the shepherds come, Vayigorshum, they chased them away. According to the Medrash, they were going to violate them also. He chased them away, masculine. Moshe rescues them, feminine. And then he waters their sheep, masculine again. So I saw one of the first, and again, there are no typos in the Torah. It wasn't an accident. So I saw one of the Mefarshim says, the shepherds treated them like men. Vayigorshum. I mean, who beats up women, honestly? Who goes and picks on women? A bunch of women are at the well. You go chase them away. They're relating to them as if they're men. Moshe Rabbeinu relates to them as if they're women. These are the weak ones who are being oppressed, and he's going to draw them out of trouble now. You see that somebody who's helpless is being picked on. So Moshe Rabbeinu gets involved because of their weakness. But not because of the femininity. How do you know? Vayashkes tsonam, masculine. In other words, he waters the sheep, not because they're women. He waters the sheep because he would do it for anybody. He would have helped anybody, even men. And not because, it's a bunch of girls I want to impress. It's because they're people who need help. And Moshe doesn't see the difference between men and women when it comes to people who need help. They need help having its own water, so he waters its own. Rescuing them, He's rescuing them because they're weaker. They're weaker, so Moshe has to get involved. That's the precision that you see in the Torah. Okay, so they come home and they come home and tell their father, he says to them, why'd you come home so quick today? Vatomarna, 4 lines from the bottom. Now imagine you're a father with 7 daughters. You're a father, you got 7 daughters. Vatomarna, ish mitzri hitzilanu miyad haroim. An Egyptian man saved us from the shepherds. V'gam dolo lanu v'yashkes hatzon. And he drew water, and he watered our sheep. Vayomer obenosa v'ayo, where is he? I don't read it that way. I read it as Vayomer obenosa v'ayo, where is he? Lama zazavta nesaish. Why'd you leave him? Kiran lo v'yochal lechem. Call him in so he can have to eat some bread. Rashi says the euphemism. Maybe he'll marry one of you. He's not saying, Ve'ayo, oh, where is he? Ve'ayo, where is he? It sounds like a good potential son-in-law over here. No, Moshe Rabbeinu gets punished for this. What does he get punished for? Because they said, an Egyptian man saved us. And Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say a word. He didn't say, no, I'm not an Egyptian, I'm a Jew. I'm a Hebrew. For that he gets punished that he won't be buried in Eretz Yisrael. Even though the punishment not to go into Eretz Yisrael, that's going to happen later. There's alive. Okay, so why can't he be buried in Eretz Yisrael? Because he didn't object. Why should he have objected?
He was there when they're...
He overheard it. He should have said, no, I'm not Egyptian. Why? Why should he have objected? It would be roughly the same as saying that somebody's a Catholic. They were idol worshippers. The Egyptians. To say somebody's an Egyptian means that he's an idol worshiper. And so Moshe Rabbeinu has taken that you should have spoken up. You can't let them think that. What if somebody would go, hi, this is a friend of mine. He's a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. Don't call me a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. I'm a Jew. Why are you going to tell me? You would object. Why Moshe Rabbeinu that? Why he doesn't object, I don't know, but he doesn't object. For that, and by the way, now I'll show you something amazing. Look at the pasuk carefully. Yeah, this is really something. If you take a look at where is it? In pasuk Yotes. Go back to 4 lines to the bottom. Watch this. Vatomarna ish mitzri yitzilanu miyad haroim v'gam dolo lanu vayashket satzon. Do you see the word dalid, miyad haroim? Do you see right in the middle of the word it says miyad haroim? Dalid. Look at the last letter. Look at the word miyad. Look at the last letter of the word miyad. Is a dalid. The next letter is a mem sofit. Just call it a mem. Doesn't matter. And the next letter, the next letter is also a mem sofit. Also a mem. You see where I am? 4 lines from the bottom. Everybody doesn't see this? If you see it, please show the person next to you. Again, Vatomarna ish mitzri hitzilanu, an Egyptian man saved us. Miyad, look at the last letter of miyad is a dalid. Haroim is a mem. Vigam is another mem. Dolo is a hey. Those 4 last letters written in that order spell the Hebrew word dimama, which is silence. Right there in the pasuk where they called him an Egyptian, and he remains silent. Dimama. There's silence. And it's the only time in the Torah you're going to find that sequence. And that's, the Medrash says, he does not go into Eretz Yisrael as a result. Okay. So Moshe stays there, and he marries Tzipporah, his daughter. Now, she has a son. And then the Egyptian king dies. Now pick it up on Perek Gimel. It's page 300, and this is where we're going to... Moshe haya roa estzon Yisro chosno kohen midian. Moshe was a shepherd. Common denominator, gentlemen. Who else was a shepherd in Jewish history? Who? David HaMelech. You can be a king, you have to have some practice before you take over the flock. Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to be the leader of the flock. Moshe Rabbeinu, you hang around with the sheep. And you learn what it's like. And the compassion that Moshe Rabbeinu has, the Medrash says that one of the sheep ran away, Moshe Rabbeinu picked him up and he carried him. If you're compassionate with sheep, that's the training to be, between me and you, sometimes it's easier to be more compassionate with the sheep than it is with the people. Sheep don't talk. Right? Somebody once said, a Rabbi Zelig Pliskin, who wrote Guard Your Tongue. Wonderful, wonderful Rav, a wonderful rabbi. So he was once giving a shiur, and apparently a dog wandered into the classroom. So people turn and they look, dog. Oh, look at the dog. What a cute dog. Right? How do you feel when a human being walks into the room? I like that. Okay, it looks like he got a bit of an attitude over there. Oh, he thinks highly of himself. This guy thinks something significant just happened because he walked in. We're very, very critical when it comes to human beings. When you're on driving, you ever see a stray dog on the street? You're a little kid in the car and you're driving and you see a stray dog. I said, Mommy, look at the stray dog. I said, don't worry, sweetheart. He has a mommy. He's going home. Right? What happens if you see a homeless person on the street? Bum, why don't you get a job, man, like the rest of us? We're very harsh with human beings, but it is a training. And to be a leader, Moshe Rabbeinu, first he starts off as a shepherd. And Moshe Rabbeinu is out in the desert with the shepherd. Vayovo el har Elokim choreva. He comes to the mountain of God, which is eventually going to be Har Sinai, where the Torah is given. According to the Mefarshim, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know this. He followed the sheep. The sheep led him out there. And he's out in a place called Choreva, which is desolate, it's dry, it's arid. And Moshe Rabbeinu is out there. Now watch what happens. Very, very important idea here. Vayera malach Hashem elav bilabas eish mitoch hasne. An angel of God, which is a form of prophecy, appears to him in a fire from the sneh. The sneh is the burning bush, the bush. Vayar v'inei hasneh bo'er ba'esh hasneh einenu uko. Moshe Rabbeinu sees this bush is burning and it's not being consumed. Now watch the next pasuk. Look at the terminology. Vayomer Moshe asurana. I will move. How does our skill translate it?
Aside.
I will turn aside now. Asurana. Ve'ere es hamare hagodol hazeh. I'll see that. I want to see this vision. Madua lo yivar hasneh. Why isn't the sneh burning? Now that's a very interesting turn of phrase. Moshe Rabbeinu says, asurana, I will turn aside. That means Moshe is walking in this direction, and he says, I will turn aside, and I will go, ve'era, meaning I'm going to move from here to there. Vayara Hashem kisor liros. When Hashem saw that he turned aside to see, Vayikra elav Elokim mitoch hasneh. God called him from the sneh. Vayomer Moshe vayomer hineni. Now, if you stop and think about it, Moshe Rabbeinu is walking in this direction. And he sees something, and he says, I will change direction, and I will go and see that. So I have a friend I've mentioned before, by Menachem Goldberger in Baltimore. He said a phenomenal idea here. It's just really phenomenal. Many people develop an approach to life. This is my approach to life. This is how I live life. This is my outlook on life. And sometimes it happens that you come across what is potentially a different approach to life, which apparently has happened to every single one of you because you've come to yeshiva and you've changed directions to a certain extent, which is one of the most difficult things in life to do. A person sometimes has developed his reality and he's closed off to all other views. A smart person says, okay, this is my reality. And he says, 1 second, you know what? Maybe I have to change directions because I'm being presented with something else, which seems to be much more logical and makes more sense than what I've been doing up until now in my life. It's a very difficult thing. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu says, oh, sorry, just ignore it. Just ignore it. Sometimes a person is presented with truth. A person is presented with an opportunity. A person's been in yeshiva for a couple of weeks, leaves yeshiva, and just ignores it for the rest of his life. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Asurana, whoa. You know what? This, my take on reality up until this point in my life may have been in error. And he turns and takes it. Let's see what's happening over there. And it's a very difficult thing because a person has to sometimes make life adjustments. The most difficult thing in the world. Yet Moshe, 1 second. Then Moshe Rabbeinu is willing, and he's showing us again. The Torah using Moshe Rabbeinu is meant to convey a lesson. Whether or not it happened to Moshe Rabbeinu literally is not the issue here. The issue is, what are we supposed to take? What's our takeaway? And our takeaway is sometimes a person has to stop and say, hey. Am I just going to ignore that because a cognitive dissonance says that it can't be right because what I'm doing is then wrong up until this point? Or is the person open-minded enough to say, you know what, let me think about this, because this may be something that involves I'm going to have to make some adjustments, yeah.
But it's also easy to veer off from the path, from the good path you're on.
It is easy to veer off of the good path. That's our challenge. But first we have to find the good path.
Right.
You know, I heard about this guy. He's driving, and he sees a farmer, and he says, "How do I catch the highway? How do I catch Highway 79?" Farmer says, "Don't know." Well, what's the shortest route? What's the shortest route to South Bend? Don't know. He says, "Well, can you get where's Route 66?" So I don't know. So he says, "You don't know much, do you?" He says, "Nope, but I ain't lost." And sometimes in life, we are accused of being very closed. You know, you're living in a religious world, and all you know is Gemara and Torah and all that stuff. And you're not aware of what's going on in the rest of the world. Most of the time, it's not true. We're usually more aware. But let's say we're not as aware of things out there. But we're not lost. We're not lost. You may be very aware, but you're lost. And a person, number one, sometimes you got to make an adjustment. Something your take on reality may not be the take, number one. Number two, there's another lesson here, which is sometimes, you know, you see there's an issue, you just keep walking. I don't want to get involved with that. I wish I get involved. A Torah Jew says, you know what, they may need my help over there. I have to go and see what's going on. There's a fire over there. What's going on over it? Maybe I could do something. Maybe I will just walk past and ignore it. And it doesn't even have to be, we're not necessarily talking about physical help. Maybe there's somebody who's struggling with something. Maybe it's somebody I know that he's having shalom bayis problems. Maybe I could help about it. I'm talking about there's a very fine line between helping and meddling. Maybe I know somebody has a struggle with one of his kids. I just ignore it. Maybe I have something I could say to him. Maybe I could help him out. Maybe somebody's struggling financially. Don't wait till he comes to me. Maybe I have to take the initiative and go to him. Moshe Rabbeinu said, don't just walk past it. Asuruna. I'm busy doing this, but maybe you have to take a step in that direction. Very important idea. Okay, now, look what Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu. Vayomer, Hashem says, Al tikrav halom, don't come close. Stop. Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha, take your shoes off your feet. Ki hamokom asher ata omed levad mas kodesh, you're on holy soil. The plain meaning of taking your shoes off your feet is obviously, if you've been hanging around sheep all day, so there's probably something on the bottom of your shoe which is unsuitable to walk into a shul with it. And Moshe Rabbeinu, you're on holy soil right now. You're on holy soil right now. Take off your shoes. Number one. But there's another idea here, and also a fascinating idea. The word na'al, shoe, is related to the Hebrew word man'ul. A man'ul is a lock. You know, there's nothing that's on us as firmly as our shoes. You tie your shoe, you don't tie your shirt, or you button your shirt, or you pull it over. You tie your shoes. The shoes are locked on your feet. Take your shoes off from the word na'al, me'al raglecha. What's the Hebrew word hergel? Anybody know what hergel is? Habit. Take the lock off of your habit, which is very much similar to what we were just speaking about. I've locked myself into a certain behavior in life. You want to step up? You want to change a little bit? Get the locks off you. This is my policy. I've heard people say that. We have a policy. This is our policy. Our policy, we don't answer the door during supper. Well, maybe your policy's wrong. Maybe there's a Jew who needs help knocking at your door. We don't answer. That's our policy. Our policy is that if the kid does something, that's the punishment. Well, maybe your policy is wrong. Maybe you're going to ruin your kid by doing that. Maybe review your policy. Take the lock and maybe review your life approach. Take the locks off your habit. Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha, because you're on holy soil. There's a third idea here, and with this we finish. Well, he says, Shem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, Al tikrav halom, don't come closer, because you're on holy soil. It's not uncommon that people think if I would have been born in different circumstances, or if I had different abilities, or if I had a better mind for studying Torah, then I could really achieve something in Judaism. It's a mistake. Right where you are right now is holy soil. You are what HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you. You, with your life circumstances and your abilities and your capabilities, and you are on holy. You don't have to be somebody else. Boy, if I was Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, then I'd set the place on fire. No. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein had to do his job. You have to do your job. I have to do my job. Where you're standing right now is Ad Maska. You're on holy soil. That means you have the potential for holy soil. I have the potential for holy soil. We have to excavate. We have to actualize our potential. But we have right where we are. We don't need to be somebody else. We don't need different circumstances. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the circumstances right now to be holy soil, on holy soil. So that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, take your shoes off your feet. You're on holy soil right now. Okay. We have to stop. We have to stop for Mincha.